Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Foreign Policy Podcast. I apologize for not uploading on a weekly basis as I usually do. This episode took much longer to finish because it took a while for our special guest to arrive. Today our special guest is a former country director for the Peace Corps, serving in Cambodia for more than a decade. I would like to give a warm welcome to Emmanuel Angomas.
Thank you for having me, Alex. While this is a very important and controversial topic, it has been widely excluded from recent discussions.
And for new audience members out there, what exactly are we discussing today?
Today, we will be discussing the Peace Corps. More specifically, we'll be talking about the inefficiency and ineffectiveness of the volunteer program, along with solutions to the problem.
Now for me, this is a topic I did not have a lot of time to research, so I'm not as educated in this as you are. But what I know of the Peace Corps, according to this website I read, is that the Peace Corps is an organization founded in 1961 by JFK. The main goal of the Peace Corps is to help advanced countries in need. Is that true from what you have experienced?
For the most part, yes. What website are you referring to?
The website I got this information from was peacecorps.com.
In addition to that, another one of the various goals of the Peace Corps is to promote a mutual understanding of Americans and various countries. But from prior knowledge, it's clear to me that the Peace Corps and their advocates have created an irresponsible facade of efficiency and effectiveness.
That is a very interesting claim to make. From what I've seen on the internet and several credible sources, the Peace Corps has been very helpful to countries that it aids. Let's discuss more on that issue.
Okay, let's start by considering the funding model of the Peace Corps. This is a very expensive federally funded program that costs American taxpayers more than $278,000 per year, or about $56,000 annually per volunteer, according to a 2017 report from the Brookings Institute.
Okay, so from what you're saying, this organization costs a lot of money to support, but a lot of other beneficial organizations cost a lot as well. So how does the cost even affect the efficiency of the program being run?
The Peace Corps distinguishes itself from other organizations by means of its huge yearly cost when compared to other overseas volunteer agencies. This cost, when made the responsibility of American citizens, jeopardizes the longevity of the program, as many fiscally conservative government officials object to the pricey international development projects.
Very interesting. Do you find any other issues with the Peace Corps besides its cost? Because I can't really seem to find any other problems. To me, it seems like these issues are just small effects from a cause that does a lot of good.
Yeah, it's very easy to ignore the various setbacks of a globally recognized program when focusing on the many positives, such as an increased understanding of American culture, according to a 2016 survey published by the Peace Corps. However, another one of the failures of the agency is its widespread ineffectiveness.
I know that the majority of the Peace Corps volunteers are young and recent college graduates. Is there any way that this reduces the overall benefit that host countries receive from the program?
Of course, while many college graduates are well-intentioned and eager to contribute to global outreach, the reality is that most of the younger volunteers recruited by the Peace Corps are lacking in extensive professional and life experience and the ability to mentor other volunteers, in accordance with a 2008 article by the New York Times. For example, the same publication briefly mentions the fact that many Peace Corps volunteers who were allocated to agricultural development had no qualifications whatsoever to work in that field.
Wow, I would never expected that.
Yeah, many people don't know that so many volunteers are lacking in experience.
From how it is shown by the Peace Corps organization, the volunteers seem to be experienced and able to handle the situations that they might encounter.
It might seem like that, but another criticism of the agency is that it is vulnerable to violence. According to an article I read from HowStuffWorks.com, a 40-year-old female volunteer was murdered 11 years ago in the Philippines, possibly by a local merchant.
How interesting. Now for a while we have been discussing the hidden problems with the Peace Corps, but what does talking about it do? So, I would like to know if you by chance have any solutions to these problems, and if not, we can come up with some right on the spot.
Yeah, so regarding the first issue I mentioned, which is the inefficiency of the program's funding model, one resolution is the implementation of a mixed funding model. This model could easily be established if the Peace Corps would depend more heavily on its strategic partners. According to the previously mentioned article from the Brookings Institute, the program collected more than $3 million in donations in fiscal year 2016, with about $1.6 million coming from corporate donors.
I think that's great. Getting funding from government and private sectors will relieve the financial burden placed upon the soldiers of American citizens.
Additionally, the Peace Corps' National Peace Corps Association has a, quote, potential donor base of about 220,000 former volunteers, among which is Reed Hastings, the CEO of Netflix. Donations from Hastings and various other philanthropists would allow the federal government to reduce funding directed towards the agency.
Okay, so we have covered the solution for the high cost of the Peace Corps, but what can we do to address the inexperienced volunteers?
As suggested by the aforementioned New York Times article, one possible method that could be adopted by the program to reduce the prevalence of unskilled volunteers is the creation of a more demanding recruitment process. A more stringent process could be implemented by increased efforts to recruit recent college graduates who completed their education at or near the top of the graduating class, as these young adults are obviously very skilled individuals.
Wow, you really thought of it all. It's amazing how you're able to spot these problems and also come up with beneficial solutions. Thank you for Emmanuel for coming on the show today and educating the audience and myself on this issue. It is very important that the public is aware of these topics concerning social responsibility.
Thank you for having me, Alex. It's been a pleasure coming on your show and discussing the problems facing the Peace Corps, along with presenting solutions to these issues.
And that wraps up another episode of the Foreign Policy Podcast. Tune in next week where we'll be discussing the threat of nuclear war with Donald Trump.